And I'm not at all worried, not one little bit. And I don't want anyone here to be worried too. Now let's remind ourselves, if you bought in 2023, you're still up 4x, which offers more than pretty much any other large cap sort of commodities or assets or whatever you want to call them out there, or opportunities. You know, we're still in a solid place right here, and we're still looking so healthy, and hopefully the future will remain bright. Now, I want to just talk about this drop, of course, and how, for me, this isn't something that kind of scares me. This isn't something that makes me worry about the future of blockchain and the technology that we have here and the blessing that we've got from cryptography and just blockchain in general, and how this is just so precious. And the fact that we can sit at $96,000 in an extreme fear environment and be able to even say that we've got extreme fear and basically 100K Bitcoin is an absolute blessing. Now, I do also want to talk about how market cycles are absolutely a thing, how right now Bitcoin is very overextended from its 200 SMA, which is over here, this little blue line that's just sort of zigging along in this logarithmic regression chart. And why this is important, because I think we've all been kind of slightly sold this thing about how now we've got so many governments and institutions adopting, the Bitcoin space. Now, we have to remind ourselves, firstly, why are we seeing a dump? Well, firstly, Strategy has been rumored to be selling, Michael Saylor himself, to be selling a lot of Bitcoin right now. Now, I don't know if that's true. No one knows if that's truly true. However, one thing for sure is that when we look into Strategy, the largest treasury for Bitcoin, and I think this is where things get kind of important, and why market cycles will always remain the same, in my opinion, in terms of volatility, is because firstly, it's human beings. Human beings do not change. From ancient times, we've always had fear and greed, and you can always apply fear and greed to any particular market, even a fish market, right? Any market, any industry has fear and greed, right? But the other thing is, look, let's just check here. Who are the who are the Strategy shareholders? So effectively, MicroStrategy and Strategy. Well, let's look. Strategy shareholders usually refers to major institutional investors in MicroStrategy. Now we can see this is Vanguard Group, BlackRock, Capital International Investors. So the same names creep up. What happens when you Google who owns most of S&P 500? Who owns most of S&P 500? The Vanguard Group. And we're literally seeing the same names pop up, the same huge backers behind these massive industries, these massive, I don't know how, words cannot describe the scale. But if you kind of understand what I mean, you got BlackRock, you got Vanguard Group, obviously you've got tons of massive investors from other areas too, but it's the same people that have allowed in the past, even the S&P 500 to drop 21% or to drop 27%. And to drop 35%. Now we're looking at the S&P 500, and this has a market capital of, I believe, over 50 trillion. And in April 2025, we were able to see a 20% volatility for something with 50 trillion on the market capital. Bitcoin only has a 1.92 trillion market capital. And I'm actually going to say only because gold is so much higher. And that's just a fact. Until we surpass gold, Bitcoin will remain very volatile, in my opinion. Now, the key thing is, we're looking at Bitcoin top to bottom. And if we look at the last cycle for Bitcoin on top to bottom, we went from 67K down to $15,000. And that reflected 77.16% of the volatility, or the true top to the true bottom, right? And the reason this, for me, is quite important is because a lot of people now are believing that we will never see Bitcoin drop such percentages ever again because of these big investors or the people that are behind it now. Well, it's always been institutionalized. Even last time, in 2020, there's no way these people would have had a blind eye to it. And I think the media and the news is just a bit different this time, trying to sell a slightly different story. So yeah, we could still correct. And if these people want this market to go down 30% from top to bottom, they'll get it. They will absolutely get it. So for example, Bitcoin was 126K. Well, we're already down 24%. And sure, compared to S&P, we're already looking at some very similar volatility to some of the market cycles. Of course, these are measured out over a longer period of times. However, if we apply this to our current market cycle theory and the volatility that we've been demonstrated, we're still comparing a 50 trillion asset class to a 2 trillion asset class. So I do think 24% is not enough. If they want to really capitalize, if the smart money wants to capitalize on this particular market and keep this market cycle the way it's always been, it requires a much bigger drop. So I do think at one point in time, bearish times, when we truly hit bearish times, I think 50 to 60% makes sense now. I don't know if we'll see, like what we saw last time where we had from top to bottom a 77%. I don't know if we'll touch 70% from top to bottom. If we did do 70% from top to bottom, we'd be looking at $38,000, which is probably a little bit too ambitious for bears. I'm not a bear, I'm not a bull, by the way. I'm just completely in between. I'm a pragmatic sort of believer. I believe in both scenarios because you need bottoms to build and you need tops to yield, right? And I think personally, my key area of interest will just be, in the times to come between kind of like 60%, 65% and 55%. So we're looking at anywhere kind of in this sort of window here. I'm very, very interested in the idea of acquiring Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can come down below that 200 SMA, that blue line, then I'm absolutely going to feel very bullish. So it would require quite a drop in the price. We'd have to see the 200 SMA float this way, and Bitcoin price would have to then drop through at some point in history like this. And that's kind of what I think will happen. I think we will touch down into that 50K territory. I don't think it will never happen. That's just my belief. And if this plays out, then it plays out and we have to wait. And that's completely fine. Although I would love to see also so much Bitcoin do a bit better. I would love to see 160K before this market goes back down, back down, back down, and then we come up. We have these two kind of different ways where it could happen. We have path yellow and path green. Both will inevitably lead to the same outcome of that desired 200,000 plus Bitcoin. It's just, how is it going to happen? And it's just a mystery. So make sure you're always thinking long term, blah, blah, blah. And just understand that, yes, this is a big shakeout, and this is just a classic 30% correction. This is nothing to really be terrified about. And if this is just the bottom here, the local bottom, and we are poised for a new bounce, then we could be looking at some really interesting markets in December that could be extremely bullish. But just do know that this market is still pretty volatile. And of course, nothing in this video is financial advice, but I do think history often does almost repeat itself in some interesting ways. So yes, guys, I want to say, please do consider my Patreon. It's down below if you are someone that wants to really lock into these markets and obtain some awesome information around crypto. I mean, some of the traders in my group are doing fantastic. Shout out to Davis, really hitting the markets nicely. Rubius really doing good too. Brute Force doing great, as well as Tillman, and just loads of other of you guys doing so good. Please join the Discord. It's free to join down below. If you want the premium stuff, there's a Patreon down below which will take you there to help you become a better trader, understand the markets better, and hopefully yield and capitalize more in this particular market too. You'll get education, resources, insights, and a wealth of knowledge. So please have a look down below. We've got different tiers for different kind of people who have like higher or lower budgets. So very, very exciting to see how this market's playing out. Overall, I don't think this is a terrible thing. People are saying it's a terrible thing. I don't think it's a terrible thing right now. It's I don't know. We don't control the future of what happens with these markets, and it's all out of our control. We can only wait and stick to a strategy that we believe in, that we personally believe in. We're at 16 with 96K Bitcoin on the Fear and Greed Index. This is something that we never really have ever seen before. So it's interesting. It's all new information. No one knows the next thing to do. Anyways, if you're out there trading, check out MEXC. They've got your back. Super liquid, super secure. Sign-up bonuses are indeed waiting for you guys. And yeah, have a little look down there. We try to partner with the best. It's one of my favorite exchanges for sure. You've got leverage here. You've got futures. You've got earnings sort of opportunities. And you've got tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of trading coins, like pairs to enjoy. So check out MEXC too. Subscribe. Like, comment. We shall see you soon.